It's Tom and Jack for Cultaholic. Jack, it's Blue Monday. Quick, cheer us up.
Oh,
quick.
Oh, it'll all be all right, everyone. It'll all be all right in the end.
Phew, I was worried then we wouldn't get cheered up. Nice one, mate. Well done. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Do you know what else would cheer people up?
Is it some wrestling news?
No, I was going to say a hobby horse, but we'll do some wrestling news as well. Original plans for WWE Raw last week have been revealed. A former Impact star has slammed the company on their way out. And a WWE pay-per-view is making its return in March. We'll talk about it in a bit. Last week's Monday Night Raw was a horrid affair as a result of Drew McIntyre testing positive for COVID. Lots of stuff had to be reworked, but it turns out there was one particular moment that stayed very much the same amid all the chaos, wasn't there, Jack?
Yeah, which in one way makes sense, and in another way doesn't. I think we're going to be talking here about the fireball from Alexa Bliss to Randy Orton. And it was so bizarre and so out of the blue that it seemed like something they must have invented just to fill time. But then at the same time, because it was such a unique angle, I guess you could argue that, no, it would have been in there all the time. According to Fightful Select, anyway, that is what happened. It was always the plan, regardless of whether Drew was in attendance or not. So they've been saying that WWE's finish for Raw was planned, whether or not Triple H was involved, because he, of course, was involved due to the absence of Drew, according to various sources. Drew McIntyre was planned for this episode of Raw before contracting coronavirus and was set to face Randy Orton. However, we've been told, this is Fightful once again, that the Alexa Bliss fireball finish was the plan all along, regardless of if it was Triple H involved or if it was Drew McIntyre involved. They've not mentioned there, though, whether Drew would have been kidnapped by the Fiend like Triple H was just seconds before the fireball spot happened. WWE had planned for McIntyre to be there, though, when he tested positive. Also, for those wondering, the fire was not computer generated, just heavily edited. Well,
I thought the whole bit looked really good. It's weird how it seems to have divided quite a lot of fans. We've had more nonsense on wrestling than that, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I didn't mind how it looked, really. I thought it looked good enough. I think it was more the fact that it was just part of a big, ridiculous segment which ended a big, ridiculous Raw might have been the reason that it annoyed quite a few people. But no, I didn't have any problems visually with the fireball. I don't know about people in the comments, but let us know what you thought.
I appreciate the continuity for the character as well, for the Fiend. You know how you say the Fiend changes people? That's what they've been saying, the whole idea that once you interact with the Fiend, you're never the same. We saw Triple H get his sledgehammer set on fire and then disappear. And then who do we see on the weekend? We saw Hank E. Panky delivering the WrestleMania update. The Fiend has changed Triple H forever.
Right, okay, yeah. Why not? Why not, Tom?
That's what happened. That's what happened. It'll never be the same again. Similar for Ethan Page at Impact Wrestling. Things there not in a great way right now following Hard to Kill. It was Ethan Page's final night kind of under the Impact umbrella, the conclusion of the Karate Man stuff that he's been doing. These really fun segments where it's him versus himself in some well-produced packages. The final episode of that went out at Hard to Kill. Ethan Page had some thoughts on that, didn't he, Jack?
Yes, and before I read this quote, which is from the Wrestling Observer, you might have to help me a little bit with this, Tom, because I haven't yet watched Hard to Kill, and I'm very confused with what's being referred to.
I'll explain. So this was the final battle between Ethan Page and the Karate Man,
who is, of course, himself.
Himself, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And what we saw at Hard to Kill was this over the top CGI like green screened battle between the two, where they kept sort of jumping between different locations, and it looked as if it was meant to be edited badly.
Okay.
And that was the vibe that we were meant to go for, like it was meant to be sort of deliberately crap. Away from the Wrestling Observer quote, the actual body of that quote comes from Ethan Page's social media.
Oh yes, sorry, thank you. Yes.
No, so tell us what Ethan Page said about the final chapter of his fight with Karate Man.
So yes, Ethan Page had this to say, which is a quote that was reported by the Wrestling Observer, but this is Ethan Page's own words, yes, as Tom mentioned. He said, and he didn't mince his words, he said, "Last night sucked. I'm so embarrassed with how Impact lazily edited that segment last night and forced it to be a joke. I felt the thought of the same guys fighting each other was comedy enough, and the more serious we took it, the better the reaction would be. But because I left the company, they lied to my face and just did what they wanted the whole time. I'm sorry if any of my fans paid for that pay-per-view and felt cheated. I honestly feel that the free version I gave away was made with more love, care, and attention to detail. I actually begged Impact not to even have Karate Man on TV. I only wanted it for my YouTube channel, but we don't write the shows. It breaks my heart the company refuses to respect its talent or its fan base on a regular basis. I tried. Oh well, life goes on, that door is closed, now let's focus on what's next. Sorry if this comes across so negative, I know I'm usually a positive light for my fans, but today I need to just be honest, I was lied to, I was hurt, and I was disrespected.
Not a happy camper after that. I mean, I kind of get, I get it. I think like if you created something from the ground up and then you let another company sort of put their vision on it right near the end, and yeah, you are quite precious about it, and I do feel like some of the stuff that Ethan put together himself was of a higher quality, so I kind of get why he's a bit annoyed, you know?
Yeah, fair enough.
Wherever he lands next, I know he'll be great. Some good news from Hard to Kill. The Knockouts tag team titles are officially back in circulation, aren't they, Jack?
They are. They were announced ahead of this pay-per-view, and the inaugural... Is it inaugural if the belts have existed before? If it's a new version of the belts?
I think I just go with new. Or
the new...
Undisputed.
The new Impact Wrestling Knockouts champions were revealed during Hard to Kill. It was the finals of the Knockouts Tag Team Tournament where Fire and Flavor, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, defeated Havoc and Nevaeh. And then after the match, in a very nice touch, I thought as well, they were awarded the titles by Gail Kim and Madison Rayne, two legends of the Knockouts division. So I think that's very good. As you mentioned, they're back in circulation. It's the first time we've seen them since 2013.
Lots and lots of love for the Knockouts tag team titles. Not so much love between Mark Henry and Ryback this morning. Ryback had some comments about some of the politics and the behind-the-scenes stuff from WWE. He's very outspoken. He's the big guy, rather.
Yes.
And Mark Henry called him out on some of those things on Busted Open Radio.
Yes, he basically, he said a lot of things about Ryback. He said a lot of his peers look at him as difficult. A lot of his peers looked at him as dangerous. We've heard, people like CM Punk before say that they felt unsafe in the ring with Ryback, for example. And yes, we talk about it on this show all the time. The WWE is a show. It's sports entertainment. It's just a reflection of sports. But he don't use that term fake. I get what he's saying here. I thought for a second Mark Henry was saying, and he doesn't use that term fake, but he's actually saying he shouldn't be using that term fake. The championship is the championship. It's not a prop, and he is wrong. Because, of course, Ryback went on Twitter and was talking about how, said stuff that we all really know, but stuff that kind of boils down wrestling to a level where it's hard to care about anything if you think about it that way too much, where he was saying not a single wrestler has ever legitimately won a title. The title's just a prop. It doesn't actually mean anything. And things that we all kind of know, but things that also, I guess, take a very utilitarian view of wrestling. Mark Henry goes on to say, it's not a prop and he's wrong. I've been a world champion in 3 sports and I consider pro wrestling one of those. But it was the politics that got me to the top. It was the fact that I'm a damn good entertainer because entertainment is the name of the job description. And I get what Mark Henry's saying there. Even though you've not, legitimately bested a division of other competitors in actual, non-predetermined competition, the belt is often a sign that the person holding it, especially a big world championship, it's often a sign that they are a trusted entertainer and a star and someone who's great at wrestling and talking and everything that goes together to make somebody a great champion. And it's kind of a sign of that. And I think it's nicer to look at it that way than kind of Ryback's way of just saying, well, it's just whoever the booker wants to hold it. It doesn't actually mean anything. Because I think sometimes titles do mean something, even if it's not what they're supposed to mean in kayfabe.
Yeah, they're a signature of an accomplishment. They're a hierarchy type thing. They're an icon for the top of an industry. Because although as entertainment as you're saying, as entertainment-y as wrestling is, there is still that sports element that is still very deeply rooted within it. So yes, there is a bit of that. But it's Ryback once again being very outspoken. He's limiting his chances of ever making a WWE return.
Well, yes, I think as well. When you see, because more recently with these network documentaries, we've seen the likes of, Seth Rollins, crying backstage and being very emotional when they first won the WWE title. And they're not doing that. Like, Rollins wasn't crying because he thought, I've actually beaten Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. I've actually done it. I can't believe it. He's doing it because he realizes that, the company value him as a star and they want to push him further. And I think that's where it comes from. Also, it might be the fact that that title specifically goes back decades and decades, and it's quite a cool thing to have your name on there with that list of champions. Even if, again, it's not, it's not an Olympic gold medal or anything, it's still, it's still pretty cool.
It's an amazing accomplishment to have, an amazing one to have. One that will be defended at WrestleMania in April. Before we get to WrestleMania, though, they're adding an extra little roadblock on the way. Our final story today is the return of a WWE pay-per-view, isn't it, Jack?
Yes, according to PW Insider, Fastlane is reportedly making a return. Not Roadblock, as you cleverly insinuated. Was it a little swerve? Was it a little misdirection there, Tom? Oh,
no, Fastlane tends to sit around February, March time, and
yes,
I think they binned off the Roadblock name in favour of something that wasn't named after a Robot Wars character.
Robot was one of the originators of Robot Wars' signature style.
Was Robot.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, Fastlane is apparently, again according to PW Insider, set to return to the pay-per-view schedule on Sunday, March 21st. So you'd assume that would be, it would go Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, WrestleMania. It is set for the Thunderdome, of course, in Tampa, Florida, and the event would round out the road to WrestleMania that kicks off in 2 weeks' time at the Royal Rumble. But WWE has yet to confirm that Fastlane date reported by PW Insider, or indeed the Elimination Chamber date yet. What do you think of? Are you pleased about Fastlane returning?
Do you know what? It's another interesting little bump on the road. I think because WrestleMania has been moved back to sort of start like not late into April, around April. It's the
early April.
Late early April.
Yeah.
That's it. Late early April, because it's been moved to late early April. It's just it's got a bit more breathing room this time than it would normally have. It's not like they're not cramming in loads in between there. I personally don't think you need anything else other than Elimination Chamber. I think I like the idea of having that pay-per-view between the Rumble and WrestleMania as if like a last chance saloon to get to the WrestleMania main event. It was at the last Fastlane that we had Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns competing for the title match at WrestleMania. So it's that kind of last chance saloon to get onto the main stage. And how funny is it, Jack, that was the last Fastlane main event, and we're now at the point where we could possibly even see that match going down at WrestleMania itself.
We actually could. That is very interesting. I didn't even think of that. But that match was a great example of a match which I think sums up maybe the general problem that Fastlane had back then, unless they changed things around this time with how it's done, which is that Fastlane often gives us, or Roadblock or whatever equivalent name that we're going to call that pre-WrestleMania pay-per-view, often gives us great matches. Like Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan had an amazing match, but it wasn't the booking decision that the fans wanted. And I feel as though the problem with Fastlane deep down is that that not a lot is really going to change, because their plans for WrestleMania are kind of, after Elimination Chamber, their plans are pretty much set in stone for pretty much the whole card, it seems often. So it's hard to go into Fastlane with any sense of like,
what could happen here? Anything could happen in the next half an hour. We came close to that thinking. We had Kevin Owens and Goldberg back in 2017.
Yeah, things can change. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, things can change quite drastically.
Incidentally, when I said Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan had the last Fastlane main event, they had the first Fastlane main event.
The first one. Yes.
That's my fault. I want to correct that before now everyone's having to frantically edit their comments in the YouTube comment section. Yes. I'm sorry about that. More news later. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.